Love triangles have always fueled reality TV drama, but few have captured fans' attention quite like the emotional tug-of-war surrounding 90-Day Fiancé's Sophie and Rob. In a franchise known for explosive breakups, messy reconciliations, and shocking betrayals, Sophie and Rob's love story has felt particularly raw, almost poetic in its chaos. And now, with whispers of Pedro stepping into the spotlight, viewers are asking the question no one can ignore. Is Pedro the Prince Sophie deserves, or is Rob still the king of her heart? The fairy tale that started with fire. When Sophie first appeared on 90-Day Fiancé, she radiated youthful optimism wrapped in British charm. She wasn't naive, but she was hopeful that love could conquer cultural differences, financial strain, and emotional immaturity. Enter Rob. Rob carried himself like a man convinced he was misunderstood rather than flawed. Tall, confident, and often defensive, he and Sophie ignited instantly. Their chemistry? Undeniable. Their communication? Questionable. Their emotional timing? Almost always off. From the beginning, their relationship felt like a sparkler, bright, exciting, and just a little dangerous to hold too tightly. Fans watched as Sophie tried to balance love with self-respect. Rob, meanwhile, seemed to wrestle with pride and insecurity. The arguments weren't just about bathrooms or budgets, they were about validation, trust, control, vulnerability. And yet, neither could walk away. Why they just can't say goodbye? Some couples break up cleanly. Sophie and Rob don't. They orbit each other. Psychologists might call it trauma bonding. Romantics call it unfinished business. Reality TV fans call it addictive television. Sophie sees Rob's potential, the version of him that softens when he feels safe, the playful side, the man who promises to grow. Rob sees in Sophie something grounding, something aspirational, a partner who challenges him but also believes in him. Their goodbye scenes never feel final. There's always a pause, a glance, a hesitation in the doorframe. Because beneath the yelling and tears lies something powerful, familiarity. And familiarity is hard to surrender. Enter Pedro, the unexpected prince? Just when viewers thought the Sophie-Rob saga had reached emotional exhaustion, another name began circulating, Pedro. Whether fans are imagining crossover energy or simply comparing dynamics, Pedro represents something different, a contrast, a possibility. Many know Pedro Jimeno from his own turbulent journey on the franchise. Pedro has experienced love under scrutiny. He understands the weight of immigration stress, public criticism, and relationship pressure. But what if Pedro, hypothetically, stepped into Sophie's world? Unlike Rob's reactive energy, Pedro tends to operate with strategic calm. Where Rob argues from emotion, Pedro calculates. Where Rob seeks validation, Pedro often seeks control through independence. The question becomes, would Pedro offer Sophie stability, or simply a different flavor of chaos? The king versus the prince archetype. Let's break it down like the fairy tale this drama deserves. Rob, the king of her heart. A king doesn't necessarily rule perfectly, but he reigns through history. Rob holds emotional history with Sophie. First heartbreak, first big risk, first international leap of faith. There is something deeply powerful about being someone's first in major life chapters. Rob represents Sophie's rebellious phase, the choice she made for love over logic. And that's not easy to dethrone. Pedro, the prince she deserves? A prince symbolizes promise, growth, a new chapter. Pedro, in theory, offers experience, someone who's been burned, learned, and recalibrated. If Sophie's journey is about maturation, then Pedro could represent alignment, a partner who understands the game because he survived it. But princes must prove themselves worthy of the crown. Emotional patterns, chemistry versus compatibility. Rob and Sophie have chemistry that feels cinematic, the kind that makes you yell at the screen, just kiss already, even after a fight. But chemistry is not compatibility. Compatibility is late-night problem-solving, shared accountability, emotional regulation. Viewers often mistake intensity for depth. Sophie and Rob's passion reads as epic, but epic doesn't always equal healthy. Pedro, by comparison, might offer measured steadiness, but steady can feel boring when you're used to fireworks. And Sophie? She seems torn between the comfort of chaos and the allure of peace. Sophie's growth arc. The real story may not be about Rob or Pedro at all. It may be about Sophie. Throughout her time on 90-Day Fiancé, Happily Ever After, Sophie has shown flashes of self-awareness that suggest she's evolving beyond reactive love. She questions more, she pauses longer, she demands clarity. That shift changes everything. Because when a woman grows, the men around her must either grow too, or fall away. Rob has shown moments of introspection, but they often arrive after damage is done. Pedro, if positioned as a contender, would need to meet Sophie at her new emotional altitude. The question isn't who loves her more loudly, it's who loves her more wisely. Why viewers are so invested. Sophie and Rob tap into something universal. Most of us have had a Rob, the love that felt impossible to quit, the person who knew our patterns, our weaknesses, our inside jokes, the relationship that felt like destiny even when it felt destructive. And most of us have imagined a Pedro, the person who arrives after heartbreak, the maybe healthier option, the fresh start that feels safer but unfamiliar. The debate isn't just about reality stars, it's about second chances versus new beginnings. If this were a chessboard, Rob plays emotionally, he moves with passion, sometimes recklessly, he sacrifices pieces for dramatic effect. Pedro would likely play strategically, patient, calculated, thinking 5 moves ahead. But Sophie? She's no longer a pawn. She's learning to be the queen. And a queen doesn't choose based solely on history or hype, she chooses based on alignment with her future kingdom. The real question, what does Sophie value now? Does she crave the intensity she built with Rob, the shared struggle that makes love feel earned? Or does she want partnership that feels less like survival and more like expansion? Rob symbolizes familiarity, nostalgia, and unfinished chapters. Pedro symbolizes possibility, reset, and measured energy. But neither man defines Sophie's worth. If anything, this storyline reveals something deeper. Sophie is at a crossroads between emotional adolescence and emotional sovereignty. Can Rob reclaim the crown? For Rob to remain king, he must evolve from reactive partner to intentional one. Growth isn't promising to change, it's changing before the next fight begins. If Rob learns accountability, emotional steadiness, and respect without defensiveness, the crown stays where it is. But love alone cannot secure a throne. Would Pedro truly be different? Pedro's past shows he's capable of deep loyalty but also guarded detachment. Sophie doesn't need another emotionally unavailable partner wrapped in charm. She needs someone emotionally fluent. If Pedro enters the narrative as healed, intentional, and partnership-minded, he could offer Sophie something stabilizing. If not, he's simply a new character in the same old script. The twist no one talks about. Sometimes we ask, who should she choose? But maybe the real power move is choosing neither. Reality TV thrives on romance, but growth arcs are far more compelling. Sophie stepping away from both Rob's history and Pedro's possibility would be the ultimate plot twist. Because the strongest love story might be Sophie choosing herself.